Hey again everyone, and welcome back to the channel for the next installment in our ongoing new figure showcase series, where we take a quick look at a new figure I'm adding into my collection, usually a newer release, but sometimes it is me catching up on some older figures as well. For today's installment, we're going to be taking a look at the MCU again, and one of the more popular characters in the brand, and that figure is going to be the Scarlet Witch, based on her appearance in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which for now will be the final appearance of the character in the MCU, although I do personally hope it's not the end, since she was another great character. And I did promise that I wouldn't call her a villain, even though she does occupy that role in this movie, so I'll say she's a bit of an anti-hero. So I'm going to try not to go too deep into Multiverse of Madness. If you've watched my channel, you know I did like the movie and enjoyed what we got. But Wanda, I know there were complaints about her portrayal in the movie, but Wanda has always skirted that line in the comics as well. I did like the intensity she had here, resulting from that corruption at the hands of the Darkhold. And one thing, as you look at the other versions of Scarlet Witch, even her makeup here is a little darker, and her clothing has a darker crimson red with the black. That tells a story, I think, about the character's corruption and progression. And of course, her decimating the Illuminati in the movie was pretty impressive. Yeah, I also know there were complaints about that as well, but I personally loved it as a showcase of her power, and I thought the deaths were pretty satisfying. So what we're looking at here is a deluxe set, and the one thing that you'll notice is that what makes this a deluxe, without a doubt, is the diorama piece. And just from the layout, you can see that it's also what takes up the most real estate. So you're getting a decent package with a full array of hands, some magical effects as well, some that we've seen before, but also some new ones, which are nice. You get the Darkhold, some alternate pieces for the figure's overall appearance, and then all of the pieces for the diorama. So honestly, it's not a very intense set from an accessory perspective, because it really is all focused on that diorama, so it is a little misleading. So let's dig into things and start with the hands. So this has been pretty standard with Hot Toys and their Scarlet Witch releases, where you get an entire array of them in all sorts of contorted poses to let you create some spell casting looks, and you also get hands that are specifically designed to hold the magical effect pieces. From a detail point of view, they look great, with one of the one thing that sets them apart being those blackened fingertips that are the effects of using the Darkhold. Fingers are slender and just well sculpted overall. So it's something we expect, but again, Hot Toys did a great job with all of these. Next, you get the Darkhold itself, and this is the second time we're getting the book, with the previous version coming with the Scarlet Witch from WandaVision. Although that one is slightly different, with this one having a much more rustic cover with jagged, rough edges. The interior of the book looks great, with printed pages open to reveal the Scarlet Witch image within. Now, if you flip the pages, they're all identical, so it's just the two pages you're getting here. And the cover has some great detail work showing the engraved surfaces with some images, and the paint apps generating that feel of an aged book. Now, you get the 4 magical effect pieces. 2 of these are the most standard long effects that we've seen before with pretty much every release of Wanda, and look, they work and look good. On this release, they're still translucent, but they are a darker red plastic, which matches that darker tone of the figure's look. The other 2 are new effect pieces that look like balls with tendrils of energy floating around them. Very cool looking, and also nicely done with that translucent crimson plastic. Those are very much the highlights, since they are new pieces. Next up, you get an alternate hairpiece that you can swap out on the sculpt to create an alternate look, and we'll look at that more in depth when we look at the sculpt itself. And then you get 2 alternate panels for the side of her suit to create the cross-legged floating pose, and they're all magnetically connected. And one other thing that looks great here, these panels are translucent plastic, so there's a feel on the suit that it's almost like magical powers coursing through it. Now let's get into the diorama elements, and first, keeping with magical effects, we're looking at the large Dreamwalker pieces. The first one is a semi-spherical lattice work of magical strands connected to small globes, and I forget if those are meant to be other universes as Wanda dreamwalks through them, but it's a large effect piece that just really impresses, and it does keep with the darker translucent plastic theme that we've got going, with a variable color throughout. And then you do get a smaller strand that connects to the larger portion, which is specifically designed to act as a stand for the Darkhold and create that image of the Darkhold floating beside Wanda. But I really have to tell you that this is impressive in hand. Next up, you get the candles that sit on the base platform. These have to be assembled, but the nice thing here is that they're plastic, and a sturdy plastic at that. At first, when the set was announced, I had a feeling that it would be a cheaper material, but these are really well done and just feel solid. And there's a lot of detail on these with the variable candles of different heights and different sizes, and the melting wax. Overall, it's just amazing, and they all have the clear translucent flames throughout. And when you see this assembled, the scale of the diorama really starts to hit you. So you also get the base as well, which again, I personally thought would be a very thin piece of plastic that felt cheap, but it's actually pretty solid and has some nice raised pieces on the surface that I think may be glued on thicker cardboard. It looks great and actually feels sturdy, which is a big thing when it comes to these, especially since it's going to be holding up the figure. And right next to it, you can see the candles which just sit on top. So fully assembled, this thing has a massive footprint, and with the Dreamwalker effects, it's also very tall. You'll see a shot later on of Wanda floating, and she seems small in comparison to the effects and the display. So just be prepared for that in hand. Honestly, the piece is a standout, and it's something that you will pay attention to if you use it, just that it is a space killer. A lot of these dioramas are, but it's just such a shame to not use them, especially if you have the space to do so, because they do add a little extra to the figures. Now, switching over to Wanda herself, let's look at the sculpt, and look, credit where it's due, and I have to say this is stunning. I mean, first of all, it looks like Wanda, so it's a great likeness. And I know that I said the same thing about the WandaVision version, but this looks even more like her. So that's a credit to Hot Toys, and I think it's more to do also with the paint apps than anything else. Plus, there is a very distinctive look to her here, with the darker makeup. But there's a ton of detail here as well, and the skin texture, including some beauty marks, and just some subtle detail work. And then the eyes, they're just so lifelike on these. It's just a great, realistic addition to the sculpt. Now, I do have one slight nitpick, and that's the crown, which looks great, and it's also that translucent plastic, but the way it connects to the sculpt is via tabs on either side, and if I remove it, you can see the slight slits on the hairpiece where it connects. So basically, it's all in place using pressure. It looks fine, but it does feel a little loose at times, so just handle with care. Now, the alternate hairpiece allows you to create almost a swept back look, and the way it works is you literally just swap them out, and the sculpt has a notch in the middle between the hairline and the rear sculpted hair that has pegs and magnets to allow you to replace the piece and switch it out. Once replaced, it's pretty seamless, so nothing fancy with the mechanism, but it's nice to see that you can barely see the joint lines once you swap the piece out. And this alternate headpiece does also include the same slots for the crown. The sculpted hair honestly looks phenomenal, because there's just tons of detail work here, including what feel like some solitary strands of hair that are just sculpted next to the rest of the piece. It overall just looks great, and it's something I think Hot Toys has been excelling at when it comes to female figures for some time now with the sculpted hair. As far as the figure itself, again, it's just an awesome looking figure, and it has that screen accuracy we're looking for. But it also continues that evolution from the nicer, clean looking Wanda we saw at the end of WandaVision to something a little more sinister. Here, the skirt she has is worn with holes and frayed fabric at the base, and the overall look of the suit is that darker look again, with the black blended into the dark crimson. The upper portion of the suit is a fabric that has a nice pattern to it that's blended with those darker smudges, while the central portion and the collar are actually a rubbery, translucent, plastic-like material. Overall, it's a smart way of recreating the feel from the movie and giving us a hint that there's something happening here, like magic coursing through her. It's a really smart design choice. Pants are just straight pattern black material that looks good, and overall, even though they are form-fitting on the arms and legs, the posability does appear to be restricted, which is great. So overall, solid figure that looks incredible. So look, first pose up is the one that we all remember from the movie, and it's the selling point of the deluxe, which is the diorama, and it's the amazing show-stopping pose where you can have her kind of standing and floating next to the Darkhold. The floating strand of magic holding the Darkhold just looks stunning, and the clear stand helps give you an extra illusion of reality. And you can see how small Wanda looks with everything else around her. It's just incredible, and another piece that could qualify as a centerpiece. It's just really surprising, and I have to say I like the fact, or the tact that Hot Toys is taking in giving us these options, because they do stand out. The fact that the figure can actually attain the pose too, that's incredible. Long-term effects on the pants, I'm unsure of, but you can't deny how striking this is. Now, if you don't have the space for the stand, you can get some great poses regardless, as the figure has great posability with the double-jointed elbows, and the suit isn't restrictive at all. Although the sculpted hair does limit what you can do with the face in terms of turning. That'll be something interesting with the artisan version of Scarlet Witch coming out later, so it'll be nice to see how you can really pose her up. But this is still an amazing looking piece. And one thing I have to say, even just standing almost in a museum pose, with the right lighting, the sculpt and the suit just make her look intimidating. And while she doesn't come with many accessories, the slew of hands and the magical effects she does include still let you get some great looking stances. And if you don't want her in the hovering pose because you're concerned about how she'll look, you can still use the diorama base with her. So it's just a great looking figure overall. If anything, the one thing I would have liked to have seen with this, particularly with the base, would have been some sort of light up feature. Seeing the Dreamwalker effect lit up would have been something else, and even maybe the candles with a little bit of a flicker effect. But that's more a wish list thing more than a criticism on this figure, because it's still a striking release overall. So that was a quick look at the Scarlet Witch 6-scale figure by Hot Toys from Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. A great way to, at least for now, close out this particular line of figures. And if you get either the standard or deluxe, I think you'll be pretty happy. So let me know your thoughts on this one, and as always, thanks for watching. And if you are enjoying the content, please consider dropping a like, comment, or subscribing, and we'll touch base on the next video.